Boa noite, or good evening to everyone. Welcome to our first discussion with our Brazilian filmmaker and our Brazilian critic for the film Legalidade, or Resistance at MOSTRA, Brazilian Film Festival. So.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
I would like to no, that's okay. I would like to just make a brief introduction about these two wonderful, talented people that we have that are working with us and doing this discussion tonight. I'll say a few words about Zeca and a few words about Bruno. Zeca Brito is a filmmaker and current director of the Instituto Estadual de Cinema do Rio Grande do Sul, the Institute of Film of the State of Rio Grande do Sul. He holds a master's degree in visual arts from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, a degree in audiovisual direction from Unicinos, and a visual poetics degree from the University Federal of Rio Grande do Sul, Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. He has directed and scripted short and feature films shown in Brazil and abroad. Legality, or Legalidade, was shown on the 47th Gramado Film Festival and has received several awards. And he also was shown here in Chicago at the Latino Film Festival. Another one of his most recent feature films includes the documentary 30 Peoples. I think it's a new one that just premiered, correct, this year at the 23rd Punta del Este Film Festival. Yeah. That's Zeca Brito. Bruno Tavares is a film critic. Bruno has a master's degree in digital marketing. Since 2010, Bruno has academic research focused on the relations between cinema, television, and media. Currently, Bruno is content director and film critic at the website CinemaScope and has covered several cultural events from the last 3 years, including the São Paulo International Film Festival, the Curitiba International Film Festival, and the Paraty International Literary Festival. Bruno also writes for the magazine Subjetiva and Rosebud. He produced the two short films, Letters and According to Plan. He is also co-author of the e-book, The Brand New Brazilian Cinema, which is about to be published. In addition, he has also been a UPS, University of São Paulo, I was going to say USP, it's University of São Paulo, teacher during the winter courses. I met Bruno last year when we invited him to cover our MOSTRA's 10th anniversary. He participated in almost all of our Q&As. And I was extremely impressed with his knowledge and enthusiasm over Brazilian cinematographic art. So I'm sure you really enjoy the discussion tonight with these two wonderful people, Zeca and Bruno, about this great film, Legalidade and Resistance. I would like to say also that I met Zeca 2 years ago, right, Zeca? And in Porto Alegre, when we were there for MOSTRA. And I was extremely, extremely impressed with his knowledge of our Brazilian history and so many other things. I'm really delighted that both of you could be here with us. Thank you for being with us. Bruno.
Thank you. Thank you, Ariane. Thank you, Zeca. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight with you guys, and especially talking about Brazilian films, Brazilian movies that are such a rich chapter of our culture. And I'm very glad to be here with you, Zeca, talking about Resistance, a movie that I could watch at the movies before the COVID-19 pandemic, when we had the movies open. So it was a very interesting experience, and I learned so much about this chapter of our history. And I believe this is about the first question that I have to you, because um, we had lots of movies about, lots of films about the events that started in 64 with our military dictatorship. But these moments right before, they are also so important, because they already was showing us signs of what would happen, but they're not so they're not the theme of so many movies. But this is very to see you using this point of history to tell a story is very interesting. And I would like to know where did you came where it came the idea for the inspiration for this movie, for Resistance.
Good evening, Bruno and Ariane and all the audience. It's a pleasure, an honor to stay here with you tonight. Well, I will try to answer in English. I have a terrible English, but Ariane put me in this wonderful festival, in this wonderful night. So I will try to speak English, but I believe that I don't will walk very long. But let's try. It's about invisible things that we are talking, because the filmography, the Brazilian filmography about dictatorship and about the 60s and the 70s, it's a filmography after the episode, after the time. It's something who happened in the 80s, in the 90s, in the end of the 20th century. So what's happened in the 4 years before the start the dictatorship in Brazil, and why we don't know about this in the offshore history, in the schools, because the episode of Legality, of Resistance, the history episode, who Brizola turn on, put the people in fire to fight for democracy. Well, this it's an invisible situation in Brazil. All the time, all the generation, they don't put light in this situation, because it's a very danger episode, because it's a moment who people have the insight about the rights and all the fight you have to do in the society to do the rights and to do the laws, and this is something that if you have to have inside, and it's an abstract thing, but the people in the country have to know inside the idea of democracy. And Brizola turned the light. Brizola in the radio opened the mind of everybody. But what's happened in 20 years of dictatorship in Brazil? All this history moment, it's something that we can't talk about. We couldn't. I don't know the past in English, but it's something very dangerous to talk about. And all the protagonists, all the people who do the history, eles sofreram as consequências na pele. Foram exilados, torturados e mortos. Então, era uma história que não podia ser contada. It's a history that we couldn't talk because the consequence of this moment, history moment, was terrible. And I think, I don't know, but I think Brizola não foi muito bem compreendido pela própria esquerda brasileira. Então, por isso, essa história ficou tão exótica. Ariane, quem sabe você vai me traduzindo, porque senão eu vou ficar no inglês macarrônico aqui.
What I can translate this one, Ariane, but I believe that you can do the other ones. To sum it up, the last part, what Zeca told us is that this part of Brazilian's history chapter, it's not well teach at schools, for example, because the main character, Brizola, who at the time was governor of Rio Grande do Sul, he wasn't very well understood and very accepted by the left parties here in Brazil. So the main characters of the story were exiled during the dictatorship, and these stories only came up to light at the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, and so this is why he felt the need to tell us this story.
Yeah.
And Zeca, we have some comments here, not yet questions, but some people that are watching us and then already watched the film are talking to us. Ingrid Strasburger is saying hello. It's nice to see me, Bruno, here again. We talked a little bit after one session during the MOSTRA last year. We usually changed some news about politics. It's nice to see you here, Ingrid. And Barbara from Washington, D.C., she's saying that she's also very happy to be talking with us. We're very happy to have you here, Barbara. And David Hupp, it's welcoming you back, Zeca. And Ingrid is saying that your English is amazing, and she loved your Resistance movie, The Resistance. And Margaret Marek said that she loved the movie and she learned a lot about the story of the time. And this is my feeling while I was watching, because I saw the movie and this feeling came up to my head, like, why didn't we learn this at school? Why I'm learning this only with 30 years old watching this movie? Because this is such an important moment. And I watched some interviews that you participated, and in your history, you already worked with some historical productions here in Brazil, historical movies, and you're very passionate with the story of Brazil's history and Rio Grande do Sul history. You're a very proud person of our history, right?
Yeah, I love history. I think with history it could go better in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think with history life it's more interesting because the reality, um, it's something who is live and alive could live, and history is about everything who came before us, and it's something invisible but it's inside. So,
Yeah.
and with history we could learn about the present too. And I think, and history the life is something in cycle. So we, with history in hands, we could be prepared to the new situations, because never new, it's something who happen again. So in the case of the democracy is the same. In 4 years we have to vote, and we have to remind everything, and all the ritual, and we have to respect the majorities. And well, it's something with history we could go with more security. But I think the civilization it's about talking histories. And when we are in the cave,
Yeah.
and
We always talk. We're, we tell lots of history around the fire, right?
yeah, and this is the beginning of the civilization, the memory and the fiction that you create, and the things, the artefatos em português, e que também são dreams no cinema, né? Cinema is movies dream, is something that you imagine and you turn reality with, um, but you have to believe in this illusion. And I think when you talk about real history, if you do this with imagination and with colors, with sensors, it better to learn and to learn the real history. And so in the resistance we try put these elements, things from the romances and things from the paresthesia. I don't know in English, when you feel you smell and you have the sensations of being live. And
Yeah.
and this is translating love, because when a person love anybody, and it's easy to learn politic because you are in love, and so you are learning life when you are in love. And in this movie we try to talk about all the things about laws and rights, but we talk about love too. And I think this is this is the universal situation, because everybody try to have a better life, and try to be happy, and to do a family, and to live many years. And I think it's about these things that all the human being have to do and have to be.
Going back to the historical part of the film, it is, I think you are all too young, but I lived that moment. And I was there, and I was actually on the basement of the government palace, working with a group of very young volunteers with Brizola, when you had all those tanks outside there that were going to bombard the government palace. And to me, to this date, it is a very, very, when I saw this movie, it was, everything came back, you know, because life goes on and you forget something. But when you think of, oh, I think Brizola did an incredible thing. And like you said, people don't know about this history, you know, which actually brought democracy, you know, kept democracy alive in Brazil. And I think this is an extremely, extremely important film. And of course, I love the love part and everything, but I like the history. You know, it is so wonderful to remember those things. And Bruno.
É uma história de sacrifício muito grande, né? Do povo e de uma liderança, né? Que coloca a sua vida em risco e toda a sua família, mas em nome de um ideal, de uma causa cívica. Isso é uma coisa muito rara, né? Hoje em dia, a gente vê pouco isso. A questão do civismo, do patriotismo, não pelo interesse econômico, financeiro, não para ficar mais rico ou para ter mais poder, e sim para fazer uma sociedade melhor, né?
É o idealismo, né? Que a gente põe em prática aquele idealismo que a gente tinha, pelo menos naquela época. E muitos jovens que estavam trabalhando no porão do Palácio do Governo, Palácio Piratini, com o Brizola. E eu apertei a mão dele lá, que ele veio apertar a mão e agradecer todos aqueles voluntários jovens que estavam lá no porão ajudando. E o meu pai, muito, realmente, ele estava muito nervoso, porque eu saía e não tinha muito... Am I speaking in Portuguese or in English?
Yeah, in Portuguese. I was about to warn you guys to translate to translate what Zeca told, and then
I'm so sorry. I switched. I didn't even. I didn't realize. No, I guess that I got so involved in telling what has happened to me when I was there, and I completely forgot.
That was the problem.
Sorry to the audience, but what I was saying is that I was there working on the basement of the government palace, Piratini, with a group of other very idealistic youth, and it was a moment in history for us that is not really told so much in our history books in Brazil, and I think for me it was very, very important because it was a cry for democracy that was accomplished, you know, at that time. Sorry.
Yeah, the idea of the Constitution.
Yeah.
We
it's
have
a book you have to write, to read.
We have
people just read the Bible today. They just want to read the Bible. They don't want to read the Constitution anymore.
Yeah, and this causes some problems, right? We already have some questions from our audience, Zeca. I'm gonna read them to you. So guys, you that are watching us, please feel free to ask any questions that are related to this movie or somehow to Zeca's process of shooting this, or even about the adventures of Ariane at the basement, because I was very, very surprised to know that you were there living the history that we watched. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free. Yes, no, stop that, because it's so surprising, because this story is so moving, and it's people fighting for democracy, for their rights. And it is, I believe that this movie sends a clear message for us Brazilians today, that we can be lazy, we can be like doing our manifest, our manifesting our ideas, our political ideas, sitting on the couch. We have to go to the streets and order our rights, you know. And I believe that this movie sends this message very strongly.
Bruno, this is very contemporary with the moment in USA in this year, all the manifestations and the people in the streets and talking about the moment of the we are living and the different situations, social situations and disagrees and problems. But I think you are all right, Ariane. You have to talk about more to us about these days, because the students they have an important paper in this moment, the students. And I think in Brazil it's important to because now in a few years ago we see the occupations in the schools, in the public schools. They are fighting to majorities and to better situation in the class, and to better to the teachers, to better more money to the teachers and to the and everything. But I think in this moment in the 60s, these students, they are very important to the society, and talk about us. What happened in?
Well, I think like you said, we were very, very involved, the students at that time, into wanting democracy, the real democracy. And so we were fighting for that. And like you said, nobody talked about money or anything like that. It was mostly about what can we do to help Brazil to go ahead, to get ahead. And I thought, for me, the group that I was in, my colleagues, which I'm friends with them until today, a couple of them, one of them is a journalist, very in Rio Grande do Sul, maybe you know her, Erica Quester. She has always been, you know, upfront with all that is happening politically in our state, in particular in our state, but of course on the rest of Brazil, because it does affect the rest of Brazil. Like on this one, you know, we wouldn't have had the vice president be placed in government if it wasn't for that. But I was very impressed with Brizola because he really had quite an insight, I think. And you are right that people did not understand, I think, Brizola that well, because he really negotiated with the military right there and then, you know, in order not to bombard, because we had the tanks all outside of the palace ready to bombard the palace and the Palácio Piratini. And he was amazing, I thought, at that, you know, and very courageous, because you had those things right in front of you, and there he is on the, you know,
Marianne, it's very important because it's a moment who the part of the military people, they are broke. I think it's a unique moment in Brazilian history, that the military, some militaries think that way, and some many people, 120 mil homens,
120,000 men
ficam com Brizola, and it's impressive, and it's a moment who tinha que se pensar entre a ordem, a hierarquia, ou aquilo que a razão.
They had to think about order or hierarchy or the reason, you know.
The reason, and they opt to the reason, and it's a very special moment. And it's in a Cold War context too, because United States, there's very influence in this situation. It's something that we have to talk about too, because it's, you have to think this episode, but you have to think few days before after, when Che Guevara goes to Punta del Este, and there's Cuba começa o bloqueio, né? Os Estados Unidos lidera esse bloqueio e expulsa Cuba da Organização dos Estados Americanos, e ali traduz para a gente. E ali a gente percebe também esse contexto de Guerra Fria,
Go ahead.
Ariane?
Can you explain when Che Guevara went to?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, what Zeca was telling us is that he inspired, he saw that this is a crucial moment in America's history when Che Guevara went through the Punta del Este, and after that, the U.S. government banished Cuba from the agreements of the commerce agreements, and then the economic agreements, and then this was a very Cold War moment. The vibe was very Cold War, like America had, the United States had Cuba a very close point, Cuba very close to them, and then they felt threatened, and this began, right? Zeca, we have some questions here from the audience. First of all, we have one from Jiaming Chong. Jiaming is a film student. She's saying it's a film student in Colombia, and it's glad to be here. And I don't know if I think it's she, Jiaming, I don't know. And she asked, she have a question about the film. And she said, the tone and style of this film is almost very peaceful and slow pacing. To me, it doesn't look like a typical political film, collision, revolution. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And she also said that she saw a lot of historical background in this film, and that's why there are some plots and scenes that make it hard to understand it. I believe that there's some political moments. Although I thought that you managed to explain things through the dialogues and through the script very clearly, and very easy for the ones that weren't so used to this chapter of history of our history, because I honestly didn't knew that Brizola's was brother-in-law with Django, and then when they said, oh, so this is also a family plot, so it's get even more interesting. So if you could answer that, let me just rephrase the question of Jiomi. Let me see. She's saying that it doesn't look like a typical political film because of the slow pacing, and she's probably used to films that are more explosive or have a kind of editing. If you can clear us up to talk a little bit about us, to talk a little bit with us about that. É meio que sobre o ritmo do filme. Eu imagino que ela esperava uma coisa mais intensa, como os filmes americanos, norte-americanos são mais intrincados na montagem, os cortes.
Eu acho que a gente tem que pensar esse filme a partir de uma ideia de cultura
English?
Can you translate, Ariane? Or...
I have to say some, but I think we lose a little bit. He can speak very well.
Okay, no, let's try. But we have to think this movie inside a Brazilian culture, and there's some element that I use. It's a pop element. It's something who came from the soap opera. It's something who the melodrama. Melodrama in English?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a genre.
drama.
Yes, but in Brazil, it's something about popular. It's about um, alphabetization. It's about popular language. It's about
Is something about the popular language.
yeah in Brazil, and I think it's in this movie. I don't know. It's a see if I have conscience,
I
but
have faith. I have faith.
but I think when I saw the now when I saw the movie, I think there's a lot of soap opera and there's a lot of pop culture, Brazilian pop culture, and it's a kind of try to about this the 60s too, about the melodrama, the melodrama, the just
It's
I
just
think
drama in English, I should believe.
just
Or
drama, just drama.
melodrama. Yeah.
Yeah, but drama with honey. Drama with a lot of honey. It's
Yeah.
about it's about and when you told me, well, you put the family elements, it's they are brother-in-law or they are, and they in the same time they are the history persons in the Brazilian history, but they are brother-in-law or they are in love, something about that. It's something who came to the soap opera. It's something
Yeah.
very soap opera, and some in Brazil, I think the history it's more soap opera than adventure and fire, and
Yeah.
it is American culture. In Brazil, we have the soap opera, and we are a soap opera, and and every day everything change in a soap opera.
Exactly. It's funny that you bring that up because I notice these soap opera elements sometimes in the sound, the use of sound, the use of the soundtrack sometimes to express like suspense or thrill and or joy, and then I could the soundtrack really drove our emotions, and this is a kind of soap opera characteristic. And for the ones that aren't usually connected with Brazilian soap opera, it's a little bit different from soap opera at United States. They're not so long because you have like one episode per week, and we have 6 episodes per week. And we in here we have like 3 or 4 soap operas in each TV channel, so we're very used to that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gianni. He's a male. Sorry, Gianni. I got confused with her name. Please, sorry. Excuse me. We have another question here from José Ricardo.
Bruno,
Oh,
and
sorry.
that's something that in when I shot this movie, because
Please.
we opted to doing an analogic situation in everything. So we don't have visual effects or digital effects. We just have people and clothes, epical,
Places.
and
Yeah.
and acting, and all the and this result in you have to opt. I go to this way, so we do in an analogic way. Something like if I was born in if I was shot in the 30s or in the 50s or in the 70s or today, I was shot in the same way because I was doing in an analogic way, just with lines, movement, and this result in a static, in a view, and I think the question is about this too, because it's about the reality that because I could, it's not just about budget, but it's about budget too. Because I could take budget to do a visual effect, and it's a way I could do. It's possible, dude. In Brazil, it's possible, do today, do this. But in this case of this movie, I think it's, I don't know why, but I think I have to do this movie just movies language, just basic elements, like I was in the desert with the camera. No, but there's many things. There's travelings, and but just analogic, just the elements that you have in the history of the cinema. I don't know why, but I think because it's a epical, and it's a way to take the 70s, the 60s, something like I was a filmmaker in the 60s, and so because the movie is in the 60s, so I was, is this an exercise? I do this exercise in this movie.
Yeah, and I totally could tell that because while I was watching, first of all, I was mesmerized by the details in the costume design, the production design, the makeup artists. They were so up to the point. So they all you and all the other head of departments, they were so attentive. They had such care with detail, because we can see this in the screen. We can see that this is all analogical. And while I was watching, I was thinking, this is for real. Like, they closed the street, they call a bunch of people, they dressed everybody up, and they are like re-insane this. They're reliving this part. I mean, they are now in the palace. You can see, you can tell this adds so an inexplicable truth to your story, and I believe that this makes all the difference when you're watching. It is a little bit different from the Hollywood movies that we used to, but I believe that movies like yours, when they are seen by people that, well, is not doesn't watch other kind of movies that are made in other countries, it shows new ways of telling a story. And this is very important, because sometimes we are closed, we are so used to a unique way to tell a story, that when we see a new kind of way, we just think it's a little bit different, but then we say, oh no, but this is not, this is different. This is also a new way to tell this story, and I can like this way can be easier, or not easier, but it can inspire people to do and to tell their stories, because sometimes we are so locked to the idea that only big budget movies can be aired, that we feel locked, and we feel that our ideas can make it to the screen, and they can. We have to believe that they can, right? I'll have another question here from José Ricardo Jaquinto. He says, good evening all. First of all, congratulations for the movie, Zeca. And how was your research to make this movie that portrays in a very faithful way this important moment of our history?
Traduz para mim que eu me perdi.
Tá, não, sem problema. Ele pergunta assim, como que foi o seu processo de pesquisa,
Ah, sim, sim.
que traduz tão bem esse momento importante da história.
Yeah. Yeah. We invest many years in the investigation. So we passed about 5 years or 4 years just interview people and looking for books and for dissertations, universities, academics works, but we interview many people, and there's a lot of publications in books in Brazil. We didn't have a movie, but we have a lot of books about this episode and this moment, and so we have to synthetic, I don't know the word, to synthesize,
Synthesize, I believe, summon up, I don't know.
Yeah, because we have a lot of persons, muitos personagens, histories persons, and
Sorry, I didn't put my thing. Oh, yeah, many characters.
many characters, real characters. So we create some fiction characters, who and put many people inside.
Yes, you summon up lots of real characters in one or two characters, because there are so many people active.
Yeah, and so we have maybe 2 journalists, but in the real, well, we see a lot of journalists, but with dialogues and so and the histories, there's the real persons, persons like politics and the government, the president, and the journalists, the communists, the people who synthesize, and we put many people inside, and the CIA espiã.
Yes.
I have one of my friends, several of my friends watched the movie and they keep asking me questions. And I said, I'm not the director. They are making comments. And I have a very interesting one from Steve here that said, Cecilia's character is passionate and well-developed, but there is one problem. As a CIA asset or agent, she would have been indifferent to idealism and honor in order to do her job of spying on Brazil's government. Yet she joins the revolution. She is clearly ruthless, making love to both brothers, and but suddenly she's drawn into the revolution herself. And this was extremely puzzling, he said, to understand. Can you comment on that?
Bizarro.
Ok, eu vou traduzir para você. Ele está falando do caráter da Cecília, né? Que ele diz que achou muito bom, mas tem um problema, que como o CIA, como agente do CIA, sim, ela deveria ser indiferente ao idealismo e ao honor e tudo mais, de maneira a poder fazer o trabalho dela, né? E então, e ele pergunta, mas que ele disse, ela era muito ruthless, não vejo a palavra ruthless. Então, que ela tinha que fazer, ela namorou os 2 irmãos, né? Fez amor com os 2 irmãos e foi puxada para a revolução. Como um agente do CIA, ela não deveria se envolver.
Yeah, but this is the arc. You have to it's a inversion of narratives, classics narratives, because we always will see the CIA fighting with the communism and well, it's a joke. It is a joke. We put this joke in the movie because she turns a communist in the end. Well, when she see the really reality of the people and the poor people and all the situation with the conspiration with the democracy. Well, she turn and she becomes a communist. Well, it's a joke. It's a joke because it's not a real character. It's she's a metaphor.
Metaphor.
She's a
She's a
metaphor.
metaphor. Yeah.
She's a metaphor. A metaphor
Yeah,
about the
Zach,
situation.
I think would be interesting if you say in the movie who was a real character from Brazilian history and who was just a
Yeah.
character from the movie, because
Yeah.
Because Cecilia, when we began to write the history, we didn't know about the CIA situation and because when it was in the we have Cecilia, but she was just journalist in the history, and I think 2 years before we shot, we know that CIA. Brizola was the second man in the moment, in the period, the second more in the second people in the South American. The first was Che Guevara, and the second was Brizola. In investigation, in relatories, I don't know the words. Well, he was very. Brizola she represents something danger to USA. And we just know these 50 years after, because CIA just opened the archives, the dates 50 years after the episode. And
they only opened the archives 50 years later.
Yeah, these archives. And we are finished the scream yeah, we are finished. We are and we know that situation that Brizola was a problem to CIA in this moment. And this is official information. This real happened. So we create a character. We create Cecilia, but we don't know who is the real Cecilia in Brazilian history. Maybe we have many Cecilias, many people informating CIA and passing information and capturing information and investigation. But it's a real situation, but not but a fiction person, character. You know,
yeah,
to conduct the real situation, you have to create a person to do this metaphor.
It's a real situation, but a fictional character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Still related to the characters, David Shalimsky asked you, what made you choose to narrate the story through the search and eyes of Cecilia's daughter?
Oh, because this is the motivation that I do this movie, because there's this generation of people just don't know nothing about their fathers, their mothers, and know the things. Oh, my grandmother or my grandfather was danger. He is a communist. So you have to put points in the eyes. These people are very important to our democracy. They fight they die to us, to we stay here, vote, and talking about we think with no fear. And so, and I decided to put this situation is a daughter looking for the past and looking for the history to Brazilian history about her feelings.
Yeah. And it's interesting because your movie, it's very related to another movie that it's aired here at Mostra, that is Unremember, it's Deslembro, who is also about a person, a girl, but it's as a teenage girl looking to the past of her family, because this is, as you said, a very common situation during the 60s or 70s, no? The disappearance of people.
Yeah, Bruno, because and more because it's about legality, it's about the episode, it's the 60s, but it's about now too, and you have to think, well, now what do we have in our situation, in our political future, and well, the dictatorship in Brazil is a problem, because now there's people who don't talk about this situation, or talking, but well, we don't have to talk about we have just talk about the economic good situations and not about people who dies. We eat this don't matter. People die every day, so when the state killed people, it's not normal.
Yes, this isn't something that should be hidden. This is something that should be showed and investigated. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and this, you have to turn this alive every year. Every year, we have to turn this alive, because this is history, and it's good to everyone know the things and do the right thing and respect the institutions, and know you have to, you if you have some thing in the state government, it had to be good to the people, and this is the basic. So we have to remind when this is not good to the people, when the state is bad to the people. Well, we have all time we will repeat, this is not good. So we remind this to don't repeat.
We have to keep it alive in our minds. Yeah.
Zeca, we have here a question in Portuguese. I will read in Portuguese and then I will translate. A pergunta é da Tatiana de Lima Machado. Ela falou assim: achei o filme mesmo muito relevante para esse período histórico. Obrigada por todo o trabalho em contar essa história importante antes do golpe. Ela pergunta quais foram algumas informações que te surpreenderam ao fazer a pesquisa para produzir o filme sobre esse período. Translating, Tatiana said that she thought the movie was very relevant to this to tell this historical chapter of Brazilian history. She thanked Zecas for this work, because this story must be shown before the coup that happened in Brazil in '64. And she asked if he found some surprising informations while doing the research, the research for this movie.
Mm-hmm. Sim, yes. Vou falar e vou ficar traduzindo, tá?
Okay.
Muitas foi primeira descoberta é o tamanho desse episódio. A gente no Brasil sabe pouco do tamanho desse episódio, como ele, a partir do Rio Grande do Sul, mobilizou o país inteiro. Isso é uma coisa.
Yeah,
Yes,
Just,
sorry,
yeah.
the first thing is the size of this event, because in the South, especially in Rio Grande do Sul, it's very well known, but in other parts of the country, this isn't a very popular event that are taught in the schools or well known by the people. So the first surprise that he stumbles on is the size of the event.
Yeah, because it's the first great movement about communication, about a primeira revolution da comunicação, a partir
Yes,
da comunicação.
it was the first revolution that started with communication here in Brazil. It was the first episode of this.
South America, in all South America, maybe. It's something like Primavera Árabe, something like you live today, but in we just don't have guns in the first moment. We just have a microphone.
Yeah, a microphone.
And
the power of that.
Yeah, Brizola had old guns. They could shot. It could shot. But he had a microphone and the radio and a voice and he speak very good Portuguese, not me like in English, and he talk very 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 good and very well and the consequence about this microphone and these hours talking, the consequence. This is the something that I percebi.
That I discovered, yeah.
Yeah, like I discovered. The first is um presidente da República conseguiu assumir a presidência que lhe era de direito graças a esse movimento. Então, esse é a primeira consequência.
Yeah, the first consequence.
The vice president of the republic was able to actually take, the government to come back to the government, right? Because he was elected, he was the vice president and had the right to president.
Yeah, and all the protagonists of this episode, 3 years after, will live in our bodies the consequence. Just so you know, the first to die in 1974, the first man who died was a leader in a base aérea de Canoas Air Base.
Yes.
Ou seja, aquele rapaz que se rebelou e que impediu o bombardeio em 61 foi o primeiro a morrer em 64 com a ditadura. Então, e os outros foram presos, torturados.
Yes, the first guy that the guy who stopped the air attack in 61 was the first one to die in 64 when the dictatorship, the coup occurred here and the dictatorship was installed. So he was the first one to die.
In April, in the first night. In the first night, he died in the dictatorship. Ou seja, reação em cadeia, as coisas estão ligadas na história, né? Então, e aí todos os outros vão ser torturados, o Brizola vai ser exilado, ficou 15 anos, 15 years.
Reaction, that's why it began a chain reaction that
15 anos impedido de voltar para o seu país.
Yeah.
E aí the United States tem um papel importante também, porque os Estados Unidos vai receber o Brizola no exílio. O mesmo país que naquele momento histórico estava num outro lado da história, por valores democráticos, vai receber o Brizola no final do exílio, quando ele foi expulso do Uruguai por pressão da ditadura brasileira, e ele procura os Estados Unidos e os Estados Unidos recebe ele vai morar em Nova York.
Muito importante para traduzir essa parte.
Traduz,
Porque
Can you translate, Ariane?
No, it's a very important part. I don't know if I can translate exactly what you said properly. but it was Brizola who time, you know, was against the United States and the CIA and everything. He was received by the United States later on. And this is something, I think, on our history that is, I don't know, how can things change, you know, from one side to another?
I think it's contradictory. Democracy is something contradictory.
It's a very contradictory.
Because United States have a political situation with the other countries, but they have inside their laws and their rights, and they respect them. Yeah. and Brizola inside Brazil, like a revolutionary leader, it's something. Brizola, 15 years exiled, I don't know the word. Exiled. It's something terrible. It's not, you don't wish this to anybody. And so Brizola think, well, I have to write to some country to go, well, if they talk about freedom and they talk about democracy, so I go to USA. Go to USA and they receive him. This is interesting because this is something about the earth. We are talking about the earth.
Yeah, this is quite a plot twist at the end, right?
And the times goes by.
Yeah.
People change.
I have here, yeah. I have here one last question from Ingrid Strasberger. She asked, she said, the end was great. It was the only way to make me like Cecilia, because throughout the movie, I was getting pretty upset about the way she was using both brothers to get her info.
Yeah.
Cecilia was kind of femme fatale, right?
And here another friend commented on the end. Since you mentioned about the end, I'm going to read his comment. He said, this is his expression as well. Okay, here. I would have preferred a darker ending. Also, at the end, the director has Cecilia and Luis in a running fight with the army. They are wearing new, clean, matching uniforms. That's not like as a guerrilla. He should have made it grittier. Entendeu? Ele disse que ele preferia que o final tivesse sido mais negro, né? Que você fez a Cecília e o Luiz pôs os dois numa luta, né? Uma luta com eles, pôs os dois numa luta com o exército, e eles estão usando uns uniformes muito bonitos, matching, combinando um com o outro, e muito limpinho, e que não é o que mostrava a vida da guerrilha. Ele deveria ter feito mais duro aquele final.
Aceito a crítica. Acaba sendo uma visão estética aí, que a gente optou por fazer we opted to do this more, I don't know, symbolic. It's like guerrilheiros de Serra Maestra, assim, românticos, de chapéu, mas it's something
he opted
symbolic.
To have
but
a more romantic,
yeah, and I have and we have Cleo, and she demand us many static situations, and so if you see in the movie, if you stop the frame, she was com unhas compridas, vermelhas. Não houve
Oh,
jeito. A gente estava no
long,
final da diária.
very long red nails.
E aí eu tinha que escolher, ou eu filmava a cena com a unha ou sem a unha. Então ela tá com as unhas. Mas é uma coisa muito rápida, mas são coisas da vida, assim. Mas assim, é um filme, a gente tem soap opera, então é uma guerrilheira glamourizada. Glamour,
Yes, exactly.
glamour
She
fighting.
was fighting for freedom with the nails done. It's okay.
It is a glamorized, he said it's a glamorized guerrillera.
Yeah.
No, but I aceito a crítica. Isso acontece.
He said he accepts the criticism because this happens, of course.
Yeah. Zeca, sorry, can say.
É uma guerrilheira mais ela saiu de um filme do Almodóvar, aquela guerrilheira. Então ela está sempre impecável. Ótimo.
It's a fighter for freedom that came out from an Almodovar movie. She's always impeccable. And the red always are present in the nails. You can see. We have one last question and one comment. The question is from José Ricardo. He asked you if you think that your movie will motivate new productions to tell and show us important moments of Brazil's history.
Yeah. We are living a very difficult moment in Brazil to talking about our history. We have a movie in Marighella now.
Yeah.
Who to explain, Bruno, what's happened with Marighella? Well, in Brazil now, it's very difficult talking about some things about history.
Yes, certain moments, especially moments connected with the left movements, the left party movements here in Brazil are very difficult to be aired because Wagner Moura directed a movie about Marighella's history. Marighella was an important historical figure here in Brazil during the dictatorship. And this movie, it's ready, and he was aired at Berlin Festival last year in 2019, and they couldn't, if I'm not mistaken, and they couldn't find, the government put lots of difficulties for this movie to be aired on the cinemas. So Wagner Moura has, he and his crew had a movie finished, a movie that was already exhibited around the world in other cinemas, but it's not allowed to be aired here in Brazil. The government put difficulties for this movie to reach the public, the audience. So this is the kind of situation that we are facing here. As much as lots of other difficulties of government, the budget that cinematographers get from the government to make these movies, they are also cut. That's really a whole different chapter about the funding, that the public funding that we had to produce this kind of films. And in a way, movies that are connected to a certain kind of history here in Brazil, they are very difficult to be filmed, to be shoot, and it's even more difficult to be aired on the movies, on the cinemas. It's sad, guys. It's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. I think Resistance is a great exception because I don't know why we can put this movie at the movie theaters, because it was very, very difficult. But we've I don't think it's a school of movies, because if you go to this way, we don't shot anymore, because
Yes.
we do just one movie like Resistance. I don't believe I will do another film about this, about history, in this kind of history, because now in Brazil, impossible. I think the movies result about uh, politics that now don't anymore exist, don't exist anymore.
And I think that
Public politics.
your what you just said, you answered a new question from Ingrid, because she asked if you're thinking that if you have any ideas of making a movie about the last coup, because you must have enough material, but the moment isn't the best to do this.
The last code, word code.
Yes, I don't know if Ingrid is talking
See,
about
yeah,
the 64
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
the more recent one, the
No,
2000,
Michel
the
Temer, deve ter
2015.
sido, do
Yes, yes,
16.
probably.
Yeah, I was doing a second.
Oh, you were doing a movie about that, but it was a documentary, or
A
was a fiction one?
documentary. Yes, not exactly about the coup, but about the coup. It's about the school's occupation. I passed 20 days inside a school with a boy and shot and everything he do, and it's an anthropologic view about the students in Brazil in this year of the coup, and the resistance, the students' resistance. But
Yeah,
but it's it's something who goes to the fiction in some time. It's about um, it's like a video art and documentary video art in something,
yeah.
not just in the real. Go to the art too. Hey, the name is Hamlet. Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Oh, I would like to see that someday.
Someday.
um, so I believe this is it for today. First of all, I would like to thank you, Zeca, for being able to be here to talk to us, to explain your process, the challenge that you had, the stories that you discovered, your creative process. I thank you very much. I also thank Ariane for the invitation. Again, I'm very happy to be mediating this Q&A. And I also like to thank you, the audience, for the questions and for the participation. I hope you guys still keep this interesting Brazilian cinema, because we have a very rich culture and we have lots and lots to say and do. We're very cultural people, and our movies and our films are incredibly rich. I'm suspect to talk about them because I'm in love with Brazilian films. So Zeca, if you want to say some final words, please feel free.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you a lot. And Ariane, this festival was something alive and with emotion. And I think your work, Ariane, it's so important to our culture in Brazil. And it's a diplomatic work. And we know that culture could turn the things better in with the people, with the countries. And Ariane, there's this work about many years, and so I was very happy to stay here, and I pretend I will come back with a better English next year,
Your English is
I
great.
will really try. But, Ariane, parabéns, because isso que você faz é muito inspirador.
Agradeço a vocês dois e todos os que estão nos ajudando porque fazer um festival assim, ainda mais esse virtual, que é a primeira vez que nós fazemos, mas realmente a minha equipe jovem aqui, dos jovens como eu era naquela época do Brizola, que estão ajudando aqui, são realmente fantásticos. Nós vamos terminar hoje à noite, mas com o meu agradecimento, o meu abraço de todo o coração para vocês dois que realmente participaram e trouxeram essa obra maravilhosa, você, Zeca, e você, Bruno, que nos ajudou. Oh, I'm speaking again in...
Yeah, in Portuguese. I was about to warn you.
I'm so sorry, I get very...
Brazilian culture, Brazilian...
Because I know that Zeca understood very well, but I want to thank both of you extremely so much, because this is wonderful for us to be able to have you here, tell your views, and talk about such a special moment for us in Brazil, which relates to what is happening on the world right now. And thank you very much for a fantastic work of art, this movie, and for your moderation, Bruno, which we are going to see more. And please, the audience, there is still until tomorrow, 4 o'clock, when you can see the movie if you didn't have a chance to see it. And practically all of the movies, except for another 2 that are there for only 24 hours, please watch the movies. There's a lot for us to learn about our country, to learn about the situation there, and to try to do something. So thank you so much. I love you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariane.
Thank you. Beijão.